try it all you want, but when you stop at the intersection of classic hip-hop and culinary arts, you find Food Dope, the legendary podcast that personifies the culture through conversations with hip-hop influence, executive chefs, restaurateurs, and food influencers.
Throwing up flat like a ref, whipping up bricks like a chef.
Welcome to another episode of the Food Dope Podcast. This is your host, Nathan T Rideaux, aka The Professor, your curator of culinary dopeness. And today I'm back with another episode, and I have a person on me that went through a lot to get her on here, and I really truly appreciate her taking time out of her busy day. I don't take it lightly, and I really appreciate it. And today I have the talented, lovely, dope, entrepreneurial, hustling Chef Analisse Diaz of Baltimore, Maryland, and of the Bronx, New York. And today we're going to talk about the Bronx beginnings and come on up to where she is in Baltimore today. So this is the Food Dope Podcast, and this is your host, Nathan Rideaux, and I got Chef Analisse Diaz. How you doing, Chef?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing me on, taking the time to listen to my story.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I'm humbled and honored to be here.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. And I think when we first connected with each other and you mentioned to me about your Bronx and your father, his history and his love for hip hop, and I thought this would be a dope conversation, you know.
Yes, absolutely. That man bleeds and breathes hip hop and the Bronx and just the history of Blacks and Puerto Ricans. And listen, he could go for days talking about that.
Yeah, dope. All right, and I know we just came off a very special month in August, and people, it's considered the birth month of hip hop, which is August 11th, 1520 Cedric Avenue, Kool Herc, and the stories, legendary stories and everything. And it's universal, so you got that, and you came up a little further. You had the Universal Zulu Nation, who spread it out and was able to teach and just spread the word and bring all the masses together. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to touch that, but I want to bring up your concept, which is Orgullo and Soul. And I'm not going to read the description. I'm going to let you go into that, and let's talk about that, your brainchild, and how you came up with that.
So Orgullo and Soul, which translates from Spanish to English as Pride and Soul, is my baby. Basically, it is absolutely my pride and soul. And what it came from was it was influenced by my heritage, by my culture, Puerto Rican and Black roots.
Okay.
And growing up, I had Puerto Rican food and soul food. Right. Thanksgiving and Christmas and all the special holidays, we had a full spread of both types of cuisine. So it was always so delicious. When we have friends and family coming over, that would experience the food and how it was, the depth of flavor and everything, they just always loved it. So when I started getting into cooking and really enjoying the process of creating dishes, I felt like a lot of my process and the manner in which I prepare my meals and everything comes from the influences of, my grandmothers and my father. My father was a very big influence over me cooking. He's my favorite chef, and my grandmother as well. And just watching them, whether it was cooking arroz con gandule, which is rice and peas, to collard greens and cornbread, whichever side of the family I was on, you know what I mean? Just watching the process was always done with love and just really putting everything into it. So I just felt like when I decided to develop my concept, it really came from, I'm out in Baltimore now. I'm originally from the Bronx, like you said. Mm-hmm. I'm out in Baltimore now, and out here, we don't have no Puerto Rican restaurants.
Right.
So, being as though I knew that I could provide both, I felt like I could introduce Puerto Rican food to, different cultures and different people out here in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I was like, I can't just pick up and decide, hey, I want some rice and beans and, some stewed chicken or whatever, unless I'm going to my mom's house or unless I'm going to cook it. Or unless I have like friends but there's no location that I can really go to pick that up. And that's where that came from. And so it really was just a baby that I had, where I felt like I always wanted to have a restaurant. What better way to do it than to introduce something that I know people are going to love? And so far they do.
Yeah.
So it's literally, that's literally how that came about. And then the same thing happened with the name. It really came about as, okay, well, if you ever pay attention to, in New York especially, but even anywhere you see a Puerto Rican driving, I guarantee you they got a Puerto Rican flag hanging in their car.
Okay.
And a lot of times they have a decal. They might even have the decal on their window.
Yeah.
And a lot of times all the Puerto Rican flag decals will say "Mi Orgullo," which is my pride. You know what I mean? Because Puerto Rican people are very prideful of their land and their culture and their roots. And I feel like it goes the same to say with with Black families. You know what I'm saying? Like, we are very prideful, loving, soulful, cultural people.
Right.
And so we share that in our cultures and in our heritage. And so I just feel like when I saw that, I'm like, okay, Orgullo, that's something that is across the board universal for Puerto Ricans. That is something that is big to us, right? So when I came up with the name, I'm like, well, how about I make it so that there's some Spanish and some English in it? Yeah. I need a bilingual title that speaks to what I do, the type of brand that I have, what the feelings that I'm trying to invoke in people when they hear that title. Okay. And so that it basically translates throughout the entire brand. So I had to start with the name. The name had to, in my opinion, it had to provide intrigue. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And really, even Black people who don't know how to speak Spanish, when they hear it, they're like, well, what is that? Yeah. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, they want to know about it. And really, like, when it came time to creating the logo, the color palette, I'm talking about every little detail. I felt like you had to feel something when you saw it. Mm-hmm. And that is exactly what it's been doing, because when people see the logo, they're like, well, what does that mean? What is that? You know what I mean? Like, and then that's how it gets the conversation starter. And then that's when people are like, dang, that sounds good. I want to try it. I want to, man, you know what I mean? It sounds so like there's a feeling involved. And that's what I wanted to create. I wanted to create home. I wanted to create family, passion, love. I wanted you to feel that from the minute that I introduced my brand.
Dope. And I think when the very first time you sent me your bio, it immediately grabbed me, because when I saw the word Orgullo, just like you said, you would see that word a lot of places, but that's a word, a Spanish word that I could say that I've never seen anywhere until you seen it on your bio. That's why I just had to ask you, Orgullo, what does that mean?
And you know what's even more funny?
What's that?
Like, okay, so everybody obviously don't speak Spanish, right?
Right.
But if there's certain words that if you try to get somebody to say it who doesn't speak Spanish, they're gonna be like, what? Yeah. But for some reason, before I even tell somebody how to say, I never told you how to say it. Right. And you were like, here we have Orgullo and Soul. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people are actually able to say it. They're like, I don't know how to say it. How do you say, oh my God, I'm gonna mess it up? And then they read it and they say it right. Yeah. And I think it really comes from the fact that, growing up in school too, people who took Spanish, right? They know how to say pollo, right? Yeah. Pollo means chicken. Yeah. They know that LL mean why. Why, right. Even the logo, if you look at it, even though it's two L's, it looks like a Y. Okay. So it makes it easy. I mean, listen, from the logo, shout out to my graphic designer and PR team. Her name is Tira High. She's extremely talented. But shout out to her because she was able to take everything I gave her, because I didn't know what I wanted my logo to look like. So I literally just, the way I explained it to you, that I wanted a feeling and I wanted this and that, da. Man, she took that and she just created it. And it's so simple, but it's so on point. It's, I mean, so many people are like, I love that logo. Yeah. You know? And it's like, when she did that, I was like, this is so creative because it's spelled correctly, but the way that you designed it, it makes it so that people can enunciate the word. Yeah. Yeah. And so therefore it's not something that's too hard for someone who doesn't speak Spanish or understand Spanish to be able to look at the title and say, hey, does that say, or I think I know how to say it, or they might just roll right off the tongue. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Dope. This is the Food Dope Podcast, and this is your host, Nathan T Rideaux. And today I have on this episode, Chef Analisse Diaz of Orgullo and Soul. And before we go on, I'm gonna read the description from your bio of Orgullo and Soul, and just tell you how it just grabbed me immediately and what I think about it. Orgullo and Soul, the fusion of Afro-Boricuan and Soul roots. The concept was birthed by an artist who took her love for her culture and roots and created a culinary illustration of how the two different styles of cuisine fuse deliciously
in one kitchen. Each dish is curated with great pride in hopes to provoke feelings of love and home. That's dope. Because one thing, the word that stuck out to me, which is a main factor in me creating this show, is the word artist. I look at culinary art and I look at hip hop as like almost one and the same. Oh my goodness. I wish I could. Yeah, I wish I could explain it more, but you get it because you're an artist.
I can say that when you reached out to me and you hadn't even given me all the details yet, but when you explained to me that it was that your podcast specialized and focused on the fusion of culinary and hip hop as art and how the two worlds meet, it instantly spoke to me as an artist. Because what a lot of people don't know is that I grew up in the arts. You know, I used to sing. I went to an art school, performing art school. I used to act. I was very much in tune with creating in every aspect of the word. My father had me drawing and painting since I was a child. He's a very good artist himself. And then we have in our family, we have, you know, people who play multiple instruments. Both of my brothers are artists. One's a rapper, one has a band and plays instruments. So, you know, we've all been into creating. And so for me, the way that it translates into the kitchen is that, first of all, any form of creativity is usually therapeutic for an artist, right? Generally, anytime we use a way of expression, it's us doing just that, expressing and getting something off of our chest, off of our spirit, off of our heart, our mind, whatever it is, right? So when you create something in the kitchen, it's a labor of love because you're taking the time, right? Whether it's seasoning, whether it's slow cooking, stewing, roasting, sauteing, whatever it is, everything is a process. When you build a record, it's a process. You know what I mean? You have layers in the studio that you're laying a foundation, and then you're adding your lyrics on top. And the lyrics was your brainchild. You know what I mean? That is what you took from inside of you, whatever you were feeling at the moment, and you were expressing that in words so that other people can relate. That's what we're doing. Even though we're getting it off of us, a lot of us all feel the same things one way or another. We can relate to some artist somewhere out there. Somebody out here is going through very similar, if not some of the same exact things that some of us are going through. We're not alone in a lot of this stuff. It's the problem is that we don't all express it, right? Well, as artists, we find ways to not only get it off of our chest, but do it in such a way where other people can relate to us. So creating a culinary dish, creating a, you know, musical masterpiece, it all takes layers and a process and time and energy. You know what I mean? So I just feel like those worlds, they share so many of the same process and characteristics in building a final product, a final plate, a final record. You know what I'm saying? That I absolutely do see how the two meet.
And one thing I like to say too, and the difference between the two, not really difference, but similarity, is that an artist, a culinary artist, as well as an artist in music, especially in rap and hip hop, they got a little attitude, you know.
Flavor.
You got flavor. You always think, oh my goodness, I don't want to say in a not so humble way, but when I used to rap, everybody who raps think they're the best. And not to disrespect anybody else, but you just, certain times you do certain things. You're supposed to. That's right. Yeah.
You should have a confidence. You should feel like you're the best. It's no discount to anybody else.
Right.
I mean, how many times have Jay-Z and Lil Wayne both called themselves the best rapper alive?
Right.
But they work together on tracks together as well. And they're not competing in those tracks. But in their own right, on their own record, they're gonna call themselves the best.
Right.
I work with chefs all the time, okay? And by no means is it ever a competition when we in the kitchen. We come together. We all know what we bring to the table. And when I'm doing what I'm doing, I say my shit is the best. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not, you know, and it's not to say, well, I can cook grits better than you. I can cook rice better than you, which, by the way, I will enter any grit competition. Okay. Because I stand by, you know, the grits that I make. But nevertheless, all I'm saying, and I say that humbly, but also confidently, you know, because I just know flavor. Like that is that's my specialty. That is what I care about.
Yeah.
Because even when I go to a restaurant, right, I always feel like there's something missing. So whether it's I go to the hole in the wall spot that the food is delicious. You know what I mean? I'm from the Bronx, so a lot of our spots are small. Even in Baltimore, we got a lot of small little carry out spots that got some banging food, right? But my point is that, you know, sometimes we go to these small little hole in the wall spots. They got the best food. They got somebody in the kitchen that's cooking with their heart, like their love. They putting everything they got into that food, right?
Yeah.
But the aesthetics might not be all there.
Right.
It might not be plated exactly sexy. Right. It's not Instagram worthy. It's not, you know what I mean, a photo op. Their location might not be the greatest because they're doing what they can with what they have, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have these high-end restaurant groups that are, listen, you going there just to take pictures. That's what you want for your birthday because you about to put on your best birthday outfit. You want to take pictures and you want your plate to look sexy, but when you bite into it, it needs salt. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so it's like always something missing, which is why in my brand, I've made it a point where I'm like, I'm going to give you aesthetics and I'm going to give you flavor. Dope. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to build and curate this dish, right? And then once I take the time and I nurture and baby this food and I slow cook it and make you think that it's been sitting on the stove for 50 hours, then I'm gonna bring it out to you and you're gonna want to take a picture. And you're gonna taste it before you bite it. Yeah. That is my goal. That is what I pride myself on, which is why back to what you said about overthinking, I get in my head. I am my worst critic. There are so many things that I don't do just because I will talk myself into it being a great idea all the way until it's not. You know what I'm saying?
I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
I'll start with, oh my God, you know what? I got this idea. Man, I just know it's gonna, but then what if, you know, and then turn around, get on Instagram, somebody done did it.
Did it, yeah. Yeah.
That is the problem with us
overthinking. Yeah. And you know, perfect example of that right now. I'm already working on next year's project along with Food Dope. So my project I got coming next year, I've been keeping that a secret for probably 8 months now. I got cover art and everything did for it. I just ain't told nobody about it.
Right.
Now here we are, and I'm starting to see now. It's an audio documentary that I'm working on, right? It's an audio documentary. But now that I'm seeing nobody was doing that, especially out of hip hop, it's like now they starting to come. And I just been keeping it quiet. And now money's getting thrown around in that genre right now. And I'm still keeping mine. Yeah, trying to keep it. So it's got me jump started on that. So we're gonna
you know move what on. This is confirmation, Nathan. This is confirmation right here.
And just what you said earlier a few minutes ago about your confidence in yourself. And I mean, I could boldly state that when it comes to hip hop and writing, nobody can write like me. I'm a self-taught writer, and that attitude, the skills and the know-how came from me coming up through hip hop. I started out as a rapper, as that type of artist at 17 years old, transformed and gave me the attitude to be able to sit in rooms with people and say, give me a chance to do this. I created a radio show. I started magazines. I started 3 podcasts. 2 of them I signed distribution deals for. This is all stuff I taught myself. And without hip hop, I wouldn't have been able to have the know-how, the attitude, and the forecasting ability to be able to do this.
Because hip hop allows you to be unapologetically yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was what it was. It was literally a form of expression that everyone shared, you know, like impoverished, different scenarios and situations, whether that was the whole gang life, all that type of stuff. When it was born, it came from that. So everybody was sharing experiences and putting it out there. And it was like they didn't care what it looked like. I'm just expressing that this is my story, this is my truth, and we all sharing it. You know what I mean? And that's how they all met. Dope. In hip hop. You know what I mean? That's why they were all able to come together and make it a big thing. That's why hip hop is such a big deal all the way till now, why they care so much about not losing that culture.
Right.
You know what I mean? Why so many new rappers don't understand, you know, what the old rappers were always trying to convey and what they're trying to keep. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not saying don't change, you know, like you can't change your rap style, because at the end of the day, everything changes, right? Evolution, nothing's gonna stay the same. Just like there's different methods of cooking. You know what I mean? There's different methods and faster methods of getting the same goal, you know what I mean? The same ending product done in less the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the whole evolution process, but they still want the new school to remember the culture.
Right.
Where it came from, what the elements of hip hop are, you know? And another thing that piggybacks off of my brand is the fact that, you know, hip hop was started by Blacks and Puerto Ricans. So it's just like, this is alignment right here. You know what I mean? When you reached out to me, I was just like, what? First of all, my father would be so excited. Like, he probably was waiting for me to tell him when he could log in and watch it. You know? And I mean, listen, hip hop is my dad's. I mean, even when I told him about, let's put a little bug in his ear. Like, I wasn't even trying to give him too many details. Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, you should talk about this, and you should talk about." And I'm like, "Dad, this is more about my brand."
Right.
You know,
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about stuff.
We're gonna figure a way to work it in together with each other. We're gonna fuse it in all together. What?
Exactly. So I was just trying to tell him, like, Dad, like, calm down, bro.
Yeah.
So,
Chef Analisse, what year were you born?
1990.
1990. That was a good year. All right. That was the year, actually, because I like to relate everything. That's what I tell people about. Another thing about hip hop is that you can't just look at it as music, because as far as my generation, Generation X, it's like, man, that was the soundtrack to our lives. So 1990, I can remember I started rapping that year. I was 17. Ice Cube had just went solo from NWA. Heavy D was man, it was Heavy D, Kid and Play. Public Enemy was still bumping big time. Oh man, it was Too Short. We had such a bi-coastal infusion of everything with the culture, man. And I think all right, we're gonna go into let's talk about you coming up in the Bronx. Set the scene, set the stage for us of what it's like coming up in the Bronx, and what age did you leave? What was it like as far as your family, community, your block, whatever it was? Let us know. Just describe that for us.
All right. So my mom is from Bronx River Projects, which is where hip hop was born. Right. And my dad.
You didn't tell me that. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's where, you know, so we used to always be in Bronx River. And I remember, you know, my dad taking me to some of the jams back in the day that were at the center at Bronx River, where Africa Bambaataa and Zulu Nation, you know, would perform. And so my mom's from there, and then my dad, which is where I more so grew up, which is really right around the block, but it was we grew up on Morrison and Soundview, where the 6 train runs. Okay. And that is in between 172nd Street and Westchester, which is literally 2 blocks over from where my mother was from. So it's really kind of the same area. And so, you know, growing up, New York is always home, always home. I came out here here in Baltimore when I was about 6 for the first time. My mom moved out here. Obviously, I followed. I was a child. But my dad and my older brother actually stayed with my dad. So my dad was still in the Bronx. All my family, my grandparents, my aunts, cousins, everybody was still in New York. Okay. So I was literally in New York. When I tell you, my dad is like a road tripper. Okay. Like, that man would pick up the car and we used to drive to Florida. Like, he just loved driving. So he literally would come get me on the weekends. He would come get me for summer vacation, holidays, all that stuff. So I spent a large amount of time, regardless of even living in Baltimore, in New York still. Okay. I was literally in Baltimore like during the week type of thing. And then when I got to high school, I did go back for about a year and a half and went to high school in New York for a while. When I graduated high school, I went back again and stayed in New York. So I've been here now permanently, for about 13 years. Okay. Now. Okay. And so, like, I still have so many good memories of the Bronx. I remember summers in the Bronx. You know, one of the biggest things was block parties. That's something that was like a major culture shock coming out here and not being able to have that. And like, where the block parties at? People like, what the hell is a block party? You know? So especially the area that we had moved to in Baltimore, because it's not like we weren't like in the city, we weren't in the hood anymore. We were like, it wasn't like bougie or anything like that. It was like kind of in the middle, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
But it wasn't no block parties. It wasn't in the city. You know what I mean? And so there was none of that. And then I remember too, growing up, we used to play in the fire hydrants. So they used to pop the fire hydrants open.
Right.
And then we would use a bean can or like some type of can. They would cut the top and the bottom off, put it over the fire hydrant, and like have a sprinkler for all the kids on the block to like run through. And when the police would come through, you know, like I know when my aunt used to be with us, she would put the wrench that we used to open the pump in the baby carriage. So the police didn't know like who did it and where, you know. But listen, like summers in the Bronx were the best. Like it was nothing like a hot summer day. It sounds boring and crazy to some people, but it's so nostalgic to think about sitting on the stoop with like a icy, or what we used to call coquito, because they would have like the little icy carts with the man would push it around and have different flavor, you know, Italian ices. Them out 25 cents for the small one, 50 cents, and they used to use the little cups like that you use, the Dixie cups in your bathroom that you use for mouthwash. 25 cents for the little one, 50 cents for the medium, $1 for the big one. Listen, the best. Like,
that's dope.
I mean, I could still taste the summer heat, you know, like on my skin, and it's just something I'll never forget.
Right. The nostalgia of it all, huh? Yeah.
And like hip hop playing loud from people's cars, or like people would have like big ass speakers on the block just blasting all kinds of music. I remember the little circus clown horn that would like train going by. Like I could paint the whole picture.
And the funny thing is, pretty much everything you're speaking about is stuff that I've seen on films about New York.
Or like rap videos.
Like videos on films. Seen it all.
They always feel, because that was literally how it was. So like even when I see videos of like old school 90s stuff, you know, whether it was anything in New York in the 90s, like whether it's a music video, a new show that's channeled in the 90s, or whatever the case may be, like it instantly brings nostalgia. Like I just remember all of that, because New York has changed. The Bronx is not the same. It don't look like that when I go back home now.
Yeah, gentrification, huh?
Gentrification.
Yeah, a lot of places. Yeah, oh boy.
I know.
Let's go back into Orgullo and Soul. So you mentioned, are you a personal chef, or you mentioned you're a restaurant? Is that a restaurant? Is it something in your future, or you have one right now?
So restaurant is the goal. That's the future goal. That's what I would love to have as a location. You know, as of right now, I function as a caterer and private chef. So I do a lot of, I mainly specialize in like very intimate sized groups. I've done corporate events up to 250 people, but my baby, like where my heart is, you create a better experience that way. When you have large groups like corporate events, it's just like a lot of hustle and bustle. It's like get the food down, get it in, get it there, so they could, you know, serve themselves and kind of keep it moving. But when you're doing you know, like private dining services where I'm like in-house and I'm cooking for them and I'm plating and I'm doing all that stuff, like I really get to interact with them like they're my family, you know what I mean? And that's really where my heart thrives when it comes to preparing these dishes, because not only do I take the time to prepare it where I'm enjoying that therapeutic moment, but then I get to watch you enjoy it, and I get to receive your feedback, and it's fulfilling for me. You know, so my specialty is definitely in like the private chef or like private intimate groups of like, you know, 12 people, that type of thing, because like I said, it just creates that whole scene, that whole setting. And it also allows me to like decorate, because that's another thing I like to do, because like I told you, I care about the aesthetics. So while I don't have a restaurant, I kind of like to still bring you that vibe. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I want a plate for you. I want to light candles. I make floral arrangements for my clients. That's another thing I like to do. Again, another part of creativity and painting the picture. So I put, floral arrangements together, and I'll set a table based off of a theme, colors, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And, I try to bring you a restaurant in home.
Dope. Because as a matter of fact, I'm glad you said that whole total package that you bring in. I've noticed since COVID, even brick and mortar restaurants are half-assing on a lot of stuff and using COVID as an excuse to half-ass on service, on, like you said earlier, the plating of, everything. I'm glad you said that you're still providing that. Yeah,
and I think in the same token too, with COVID, it has made it really difficult for these brick and mortars or restaurants to keep staff too. So they're very understaffed. A lot of people don't know is that a lot of food has become unavailable or has completely skyrocketed in price too. So like a lot of inventory changes had to be made in restaurants. A lot of things had to be made where menu items are no longer available, or if they are, they're like taxing, just so that they can make up for those profits. There's like a lot of stuff going on inside the restaurant world. Right. And I feel like the catering side, private chef side, it has been, it has skyrocketed for us in a sense, because since people are social distancing, some, not everybody, but since there are people that are trying to practice social distancing and small group gatherings and things like that, they're reaching out to us because they see that we can bring that same thing that you're about to go do at a restaurant. Instead of you being around a whole bunch of people you don't know, they could have, COVID or whatever the case may be. Right. They're having more intimate gatherings with family and intimate friends and very close friends in-house. And so they're willing to kind of put that money into creating an experience at home that is catered to what they're looking for and what they want. Because with a private chef, you don't have the limitations of whatever's on the menu at the restaurant. Right. When you're planning and you're booking your chef, you get to this is where you get to have fun, because you get to kind of be like, well, I want lobster and I want steak and I want crab meat. Matter of fact, I want a flatbread pizza and I want some wings. You can do that as long as you're gonna pay for it. You know what I'm saying? So we can literally create a whole menu around your desires and the things that you like. Right. And then, when you're dealing with somebody who has a specialty in certain types of cuisine or cooks a certain kind of way, you already know that you can't lose that way. Right. Another thing that I'll do sometimes is every now and then I'll do what I call pop-up sales. Okay. And so, I'll like randomly decide to post a menu of platters that I'm going to be selling. And I might do brunch, or I might do a Taco Tuesday theme, or I might do, soul food dinners or Puerto Rican dinners, or I might do the fusion of the both. Yeah. It's just whatever I'm feeling. Or sometimes I might just be like, hey, I'm selling empanadas. Yeah. You know what I mean? And people love Baltimore, big on crab meat, right? So I do these Maryland jumbo lump crab pastelillos or empanadas.
My goodness.
And when I tell you, they sell out. Like I can't keep them. And it's just like, but I've had to kind of scale back on that because crab meat is like $60 a pound right now. Yeah. It's like up like anywhere between like $15 to $18 just for a pound. So it's just like, that's a huge influx in price. Like we're not talking about $2-3, you know? And so, but like I'll do those pop-ups and I'll be like, all right, I'm taking 20 orders. Yeah. Just something simple. But what it does is it allows people to see different dishes. You know what I mean? Right. It allows people who maybe are not in the market or the budget of having a private chef, because it's not cheap. You know what I mean? You might be able to find some cheap people, but you get what you pay for. Right. You know what I'm saying? And this is our lifestyle. This is how we pay the bills. Yep. You know? So so for those who maybe haven't had a chance to taste my food, see me post it, they want to try it, but they're like, damn, I don't got this much money to make this happen. It kind of allows them to be like, oh, she's selling plates. I can buy a plate individually. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so that's why I like to do that too, because I like to kind of give everybody a chance to see what's coming, because when the restaurant comes, that's going to be a whole different ballgame, because you can walk in whenever you want and get whatever you want. Right.
And you just mentioned something that struck a nerve with me when you mentioned the empanadas, because my wife is a sucker for empanadas. So next time we come back to Baltimore, we were just there 2 weeks ago. Next time we come back to Baltimore, I'm gonna solicit you for your services, and you can come out to my
Oh man, I
brother's
would
house.
love to
Yeah,
make her some.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah. We definitely
yes,
gonna
I
we
got
definitely
y'all.
gonna do
You know,
that.
you gotta hit me up.
All
You got my
right,
number?
all right. Yeah, yeah. We definitely gonna do that.
Yeah.
What do you think is your go-to dish if you want to meld the two cultures, the Afro-Boricuan together? If you bring the two together, what do you think is your ultimate that you know if somebody's tasting this, a potential client that I got him with this?
If it's a fusion and I'm trying to get you to taste, you know, a little bit of both worlds,
Mm-hmm.
then actually, well, I just had an event on Sunday and I did garlic mojo barbecue
Mm.
chicken wings over a bed of arroz con gandules, which is our Puerto Rican version of rice and peas, with turkey slow cooked collard greens
Mm.
and honey butter cornbread.
Oh man.
They loved it.
Y'all hear that? Yeah, yeah. I'm
They
sure
loved
they
it.
did. I'm sure they did.
When it comes to like the soul food, a lot of people love the mac and cheese.
Uh-huh.
I do two different styles. I do the regular, you know, our classic cheesy mac and cheese. It got like 7 cheeses in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I got a blackened buffalo shrimp and crab mac and cheese. That's bomb.
Oh
And
man.
then my brunches, everybody loves the shrimp and grits and the vanilla brioche French toast with bourbon fried apples.
Oh boy.
That's
Okay.
that's a top hit.
Yeah, I bet it is.
That's a top hit.
Yeah, yeah.
When I've done just a straight up Puerto Rican meal,
Mhm.
pollo guisado, which is stewed chicken,
Okay.
is that a lot of people have bought it and they love it. So when I post it, they buy it.
Mm.
So, and then the empanadas, like I
Okay.
said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, what was it in your life? At what point did you decide, or you got the idea that, man, I want to do this? Shit, I'm gonna jump in this professionally. That culinary arts was going to be your profession. What made you jump into it, and at what age?
Okay, so I started getting into really cooking when I was it's been about maybe 11 years now. I was
Okay.
like 20, 21.
Okay.
And I've been on my own since I was 18. So like I kind of had to, you know, cook for myself anyway because I was on my own.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I wasn't that great at it. Like I
Okay.
could make a couple little things, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Lord, it's nothing like how it is. I'm not even gonna lie, okay?
Yeah.
It was survival, okay?
Right.
I still keep some oodles and noodles and some
You never
and
know.
some corn in the cabinet, okay? I don't forget where I came from, right? So
Yeah.
don't get it twisted.
Okay.
But yes, I started to. So how it happened was, you know, I kind of was just like, man, this gonna have to taste better than this. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So
Yeah.
little by little, what I would do is I would just like go on Pinterest, or like I would like look at things and kind of be like, okay, like I feel like I could recreate that. And one of my aunts, one of the main things that stuck with me, that she told me a while back, what I would watch, because she would make a lot of really good dishes. I'm like, how the hell you make that? So she would just say, like, you got to season it the way you want it to taste.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, that is the most simple advice anybody could ever, like, nobody probably would even really pay it. They'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But for me, it really stuck with me, because when I started to like try to cook things, I would be like, okay, well, I have a really good palate for like picking out seasonings and flavors when I taste it, right? I don't know why, I just do. I always have. So when she told me that, it was like a light bulb, because I was just like, duh. You know what I mean? So It's like, then I started like buying different types of seasonings, and then I would play with stuff in the kitchen, and I'm like, well, how do I want this? I want this to taste kind of garlicky, or I want this to taste sweet, or and I would play with things, and I would look at Pinterest, and I would look at these recipes, and I would be like, that looks good, but I don't like what. I would read the ingredients, like, I don't want that. No, take that out. No, I'm gonna add this. And that's how it started. And I would just recreate recipes. And then little by little, when I would cook for people, when I would have things, because I always like to put parties and stuff like that, or get-togethers, because I'm not a clubber. I like to kind of have vibes in the house and create that, you know, that I've always been a food person.
Okay.
You know, over music and food and stuff like that. That was my thing. So I would kind of create that at home too, and host people. So I would cook, and they'd be like, yo, how'd you make this?
Yeah.
And so because of now me starting to enjoy cooking, then getting the reviews from people that are like, yo, this is amazing. You know, I'm just kind of like, dang, I really like this. But then at the same time, since I was a kid, I always just tell my dad, I'm gonna have a restaurant. I'm gonna have a club. I'm gonna have this. I would just be talking. Who knew that was actually gonna really turn into a real goal, right?
Right.
So it started that way. But I didn't get into it professionally until, what year is this? 21. So I professionally went all in 2019.
Okay.
I was at the crossroads of my previous employer. I was actually a state trooper for 8 years.
Wow.
I don't speak on that very much. You know, we got to a fork in the road where I no longer align with that position.
Okay.
They actually ended up letting me go. It was a lot. It was a very confusing time in my life. I have since, like, when I think back to that being my life for such a long period of time, I feel extremely far removed. You know, I don't really, I know that that's a part of my life. It'll always be a part of my testimony. It's a training that I went through. It was a very rigorous and long road, right? So it's always going to be a part of me. It's always going to be a part of who I am and what has created me as a person, right? But I just feel so completely removed from that life. And it's just like, you know, I feel like that was something that God let me do for a little while. And then he was like, all right, that's cute. I got something else for you, because you like creating and you like doing things. And I have this path that you don't even realize. Like, I get so much confirmation. And like I said, me overthinking, like, I talk myself out of a lot of things. But I get a lot of opportunities presented to me in such a way where I feel like I'm creating a path that is not only going to break certain curses for me and my family and create generational wealth, but I just want to create a lane for other people too. I want to be able to give back in a lot of ways. I want to give back to the arts, like I told you, was a big part of my life. You know, I want to help with discovering talent and just like a lot of different, there's a lot of things, you know. So you know, so at the crossroads of that happening, you know, again, I knew that I always wanted to own a restaurant, but at the time, I didn't know what the hell I was about to do next. I was like, yo, I'm about to be 30. Like, how the hell am I? I mean, I'm about to lose my job. Like, what is going on? Like, how? I've had a job since I was 14 years old. Like, this is different, you know? And so I felt like I was starting over. I felt like I was going through like some type of crisis, like quarter life crisis or something like that. I'm like, how is this happening to me? You know? And then I'm just like, okay, well, you know, I got this thing that I like to do, but at the same time, I've never went to school for business. You know what I mean? I didn't go to culinary school, you know, but I'm just like, but I'm good at it. And I can cook anything. You tell me to cook it, I can cook it, you know? And so I'm just like, I had this name, and randomly one day I just decided to register the business. And then still working for them, you know, I'm like, all right, well, I guess I could sell some plates or something. You know, I can't just go buy a restaurant, you know, I gotta get some type of clientele. I gotta make sure that people even want this stuff, you know? So I made an Instagram page. I posted a random menu. My first plate was like $11. Didn't make no money. I lost money, if anything, because of the fact that, you know, everything I had to buy to make it happen cost more than what I was selling the plate for. But I didn't know how to set the prices. I didn't know any of that. I was just, I would see people selling plates for $10, and I'm like, oh, okay, $10, that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Now I'd be like, how are you selling a plate for $10? How you making money? But you know, but nevertheless, like, you know, like I said, like, that's how it started. And then I did that first one, and everybody was like, when you doing the next one? And so I kept doing it. And then it went from that to then a friend reaching out to me and saying, hey, can you do like a private dinner for me and my husband? And I was just like, I would love to. And at the time, I hadn't rolled out that service yet. Didn't even know how to price it really. So I'm just like, look, you buy everything I need for me to make it happen, and let me take pictures to use it for promo. And I won't charge you anything. Just what it costs to make the food. You know what I mean? And from there, boom, everybody started oh, I want this. I want exactly what you did for so-and-so. Can you do this for me? And then because I started getting more bookings that way, now I can start taking pictures and changing the aesthetics of what I was doing.
Exactly.
And people are now being like, yo, like, okay, so are you available so-and-so date?
Yeah.
So it's like, it just, all it took was work. Everybody that I've gotten, as much as I would like to say Instagram help, it's not even just Instagram, because Instagram helped me grab like 1 or 2 people, but everybody else has been word of mouth.
Right.
Word of mouth and referral. I've got repeat people that, no, I'm not going to nobody else but Lise, which that's what they call me, by the way.
All right.
I'm not going to anybody else but Lise. Like, that's who I want. Like, you already know you're doing all my food.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got to here. And then so here I am, like, honestly re-inspiring and remotivating myself right now, because for the moments that I'd be like, man, am I crazy? Can I really do this?
Yeah.
Like this, saying it back and explaining where I came from to where I am now in such a short period of time. And to be honest, Nathan, like, I haven't even gone hard yet.
Right. Yeah.
I'm trying to tell you, like, I haven't. It's been real chill, real honestly, kind of lackadaisical, because it just kind of comes. You know what I'm saying? But if I like really turn up my intention, turn up my grind, and really like go hard, Orgullo and Soul gonna be somewhere else in a year or two.
Yeah, I believe it. Just the way you sold yourself, just by sitting here talking to me, and I told you, oh, next time I'm coming to Baltimore, I'm gonna hit you up. Just the way you sold that, I can tell you on it. You on it. This is Nathan T Rideaux, aka the Professor, on the Food Dope Podcast. Today I have Chef Analisse Diaz of Baltimore, Maryland, and the Bronx, New York. And Chef, we're gonna have a little fun right here. It's the first hip hop tape album you ever bought.
The first one I remember buying was a Aaliyah cassette.
Aaliyah, okay.
Aaliyah was, I was really, I mean, granted she's more R&B, but you know, she was R&B hip hop back then.
Yeah.
So I mean, I remember running that thing till the what's it called on it? The tape on the inside. Till that came out, you know, when you used to have to rewind the little,
put something back in
to rewind it.
I
remember that until it came out, and I'm like, no, it won't play no more.
Yeah.
And it had "Are You That Somebody" on it. And man, I used to flip that tape back and forth, and keep playing it and playing it. You couldn't tell me I wasn't Aaliyah when I was little.
Oh, I hear you. First concert you ever went to?
First concert. I mean, I don't know if it really counts as a concert, but like the block parties, you know, I remember, you know, Zulu Nation and them being there. And then I remember a little bit older, to like the more new school, we had another block party with like Remy Ma, Fat Joe, and the Terror Squad and Neo and stuff were all there. So a little bit of old school and new school.
A little bit of both, huh?
Parties. Right.
I liked when I'm telling my my hip hop story, personal story. I always like to say it was three-part. It was a three-prong approach to me really falling in love with hip hop. It was 3 separate incidents, and the first one, part 1, I think it was 1982. We lived in Louisiana, deep down south, Lafayette, Louisiana. The skating rink we go to on Saturday. I was probably 9 years old. You pay $2, you could stay until 10 o'clock. If you pay like $1.50 more, you get to stay till midnight. And only after 10 p.m. did they play Africa Bambaataa and Soul Sonic, Planet Rock. And that was 1982, 82, 83. But I was a hip hop kid back then, because my mom used to give us extra money. You could stay till midnight and you could hear Atomic Dog, you could hear Planet Rock, and the stuff like that is hip hop in its earlier phases. So that's how, I call myself down south b-boy, because I had the same experience. The exact experiences people had in New York. That's how influential hip hop was, man. It was being fed to us wherever we were, and that's how much influence New York had on us down south.
I go to show you how different it is now, because you know, there's not too many things you can't hear on the radio now.
Right. Exactly.
Daytime radio, and it's curse words and everything.
Yeah. It was a pleasure speaking with you today, and Chef Analisse Diaz of Baltimore, of Orgullo and Soul, and this is a wonderful fusion personal chef. She fuses Afro-Boricuan and Soul roots. And do you have any more examples of what the dishes you could prepare in this fusion? I mean, you already gave some, and it already, tantalized me. What are some other examples of things you prepare?
So I mean, it's not limited to just Puerto Rican and soul food.
Okay.
It's just where I draw my influence, and I like to be able to provide some authentic dishes from those two cuisines, because those are cuisines that are near and dear to my heart, and that I feel anybody would love once I serve it to them, right? But when it comes to other dishes, like, sometimes I get people that just want some fried rice, hibachi. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I can make you some really good fried rice with fried lobster.
Okay.
I've done a fried jerk salmon BLT sandwich on a toasted brioche roll.
Right.
With some seasoned fries and like this special sauce that I have that I call wepa sauce.
Okay.
And
wepa? You said wepa?
Wepa sauce,
Wepa
yeah.
sauce. Okay.
Because in Puerto Rican culture, right? When you're dancing, you'll hear Puerto Ricans like wepa.
Okay.
It's like, hey.
Hey.
In Puerto, so that, so that was like that was just something that I came up with, that a lot of people like. Sometimes I'll battle it and people will buy it from me.
Okay.
Because they really like this. So it's like like a garlic kind of aioli, but it's like really good on like everything.
Okay.
And then I can make some good oxtails. Even like on the taco side, like, so I jumped in on that whole birria taco fad that was going on.
Yeah.
And I had tasted them, and I'm like, it's supposed to taste better than this.
You're right.
Like,
You're right.
I'm like, it looks beautiful, but it's not delivering flavor wise.
Right.
There I go. I'm like, all right, well, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
I got home. I picked out the basic ingredients that everybody was using, and then I remixed it.
Did your own thing.
And they came out amazing. So like when I sell tacos, people jump on that too. I do like a short rib taco with the sauce and like corn salsa and like pickled onions, and I mean, it's like everything. I gotta be extra about everything. Okay? Everything gotta get seasoned.
Okay.
Everything.
Let me ask you, I have a question, and it's been bothering me forever. And I told you yesterday, when we were communicating yesterday, I was cooking, and I've always had a problem frying chicken.
Mm-hmm.
How are you at frying chicken, and how do you get chicken crispy?
It's all in your batter, in your flour mixture. You gotta use. What do you use? Do you use just flour?
No, I don't like. I've never liked just flour. Sometimes I put a little mixture of little flour and some breading or something like that.
You gotta use baking powder or cornstarch.
Yesterday, I used a little mixture of flour, cornstarch, and I had some arrowroot.
What temperature? Oh, see, I don't know about that.
It's like an organic flour / cornstarch mixed, and it didn't come out right at all.
What's your what temperature is your oil on?
Wow. Yes. Usually I deep fry it. Yesterday I did a black cast iron skillet on top of the stove.
Pan fire.
Yeah.
Oh, I love frying in a cast iron skillet. That's gold.
Okay.
But do you know the temperature of your oil, or are you just testing it with flour?
I just tested it with flour, and I use peanut oil.
Well, usually when you test it with flour, if it sizzles, then it's ready. But if you get a oil thermometer, right, then you want your oil to be somewhere between like 355 and 375. I say 360 is like a good sweet spot.
Okay.
And you gotta wait till your oil hits temperature, and you don't want to overcrowd your pan.
Okay.
You overcrowd the pan, it's gonna make your chicken soggy. It's not gonna, you know what I mean? It's gonna, and then like if the oil is too hot, then you're gonna cook it too much on the outside. It's not gonna get that golden brown color that you want, and then the inside is not gonna be cooked all the way, because Black people, we like our stuff fried hard.
Yeah.
So it's like there's that, and then what's the issue that you're finding? Is it coming out not crispy?
By me using that arrowroot was the brand.
That's probably what you.
Yeah, that's my first time ever using that, because I didn't feel like stopping.
Try equal part flour and equal part cornstarch. Mm-hmm. Just that, and then but season your flour mixture. Right. But try the equal parts that, and then another secret is like some people use mustard. on the chicken. That helps with crisping the chicken.
Really?
Some people use an egg wash.
Okay.
Where they just literally will dip it in egg and then dip it in the flour mixture, and it gives it that crispy, crunchy, like outer layer. But it's something in them.
I did the dry to the wet to the dry, and then I went to the oil with it. And it just, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I'm gonna try everything you said.
We're going to work on that and try to get you some perfectly fried chicken.
Yeah. This is Nathan Rideaux on the Food Dope Podcast today with Analisse Diaz, Chef Analisse Diaz. And Chef, before we close out, I want to give a shout out to your father, first of all. What's up? What's up, father? And
Carlos.
You say Carlos?
Yeah, Carlos.
What's up, Carlos? How you doing? I know you're proud of Chef Analisse right here, because man, I enjoyed this conversation, and I enjoyed her patience over the last few weeks. Just we had things that happened that led us to being able to do this today, but I'm glad we finally got it done. And Chef, before I close out, this is the Food Dope Podcast powered by Great Convo Media. And if anybody wants to reach me, you can reach me at urbansciencemedia@gmail.com. That's urbansciencemedia@gmail.com. And on Instagram at the Professor 73. That's at the Professor number 73, and at Food Dope Podcast. And that's Instagram. And Chef, I'm gonna go ahead and let you close out. You can have the floor, give out your social media handles, anything about Orgullo and Soul, anything you want to do. Go ahead and take care of that.
All right, this is your girl Chef Anna D. You can follow my Instagram page at Orgullo and Soul. That's spelled ORGULLO, and the word and soul, like you feel it in your soul. My email and my website and everything is actually in the link in the bio at that IG, so it'll make it easier than me trying to relay everything over this. But if you click the bio, all the contact information is on my landing page at orgulloandsoul.com. So that is my landing page / website. Website is actually under construction, but the landing page is up right now. And it is orgulloandsoul.com.
All right. And this interview will also be up on my website, on the Food Dope Podcast website. That's fooddopepodcast.com. Give it a few days and get the file back from my editor. It'll be up on fooddopepodcast.com, on Urban Science Media's YouTube page as well. So this is the Food Dope Podcast. This is Nathan T Rideaux, aka the Professor, and we are signing off.
Thank you, Nathan. You have a good day, and thanks again for having me.
All right, thank you. You have a good one.
All right, you too.
International Food Dope, brought to you by Urban Science Media, hosted by Nathan T Rideaux, aka the Professor. Find us on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on IG at Food Dope Podcast and at the Professor 73. You'll never underestimate the weight this culture carries unless you live the life. And I live the life. We got history.